Hey everyone, welcome to another Zwift race analysis video. If you could all please like, subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated, and let's move on to the video now. So this is the Herd Summer Racing League. I've done this race before, but just not on this course. It's actually a new course to me. I've never actually raced this course. I've done Libya Hill After Party, which is kind of similar, but not really. It's kind of like that, but the opposite, where you... So basically what the route is you go through the climb area before heading back to the downtown-ish area. Then you do, I think, 5 laps of the Richmond flat roads, which is what I'm currently on right now, and we've got 2.5 miles left to go. We're already 20.6 miles in, and everyone's legs are probably a bit tired since there's been a sprint every lap. I wasn't actually contesting for the sprint points because I knew that there was no way I could contest if I really wanted to try to take this win. So I was more going for the win so I can get some Zwift power ranking points and so I could test my finishing sprint against these riders. There are actually some riders, some Category A riders who are hanging with our group because we swapped them up along the way. So there's maybe around 3 or 4 Category A riders, which would really make the sprints a bit more difficult because they have such a strong sprint compared to us. There were a few riders in this race who stated in the chat that they were not sprinters, so they said they were going to be going early for try to do some breakaways, and they've been doing that pretty much every lap. But the thing I was confused about was why, because this could just be reading the description wrong, but the description said that it is not actually about the finishing points. It's about it's not about God being the first one across the line. It's fastest through segments, so it's the time that actually matters. And I accidentally forgot to change the settings for the resolution, so it's in a bit lower resolution because I was live streaming before this. You can see that I'm going pretty easy, and I'm doing around 70-80 watts, just chilling in the group, trying to save all the energy I can so that I can do a pretty powerful finishing sprint. And let's talk a bit more about the Zwift power rankings for this race. The race had some pretty strong riders in it, so there were bound to be some pretty good Zwift power ranks. The best rider, I believe, was around 130 or 140 for the Zwift power rankings, and the number 1 rider in this race got a rank of around 143, so pretty good rankings. And anything under 172 would have gotten me a Zwift power rank increase, or decrease technically, but that's besides the point. I ended with a rank of 170, so you'll have to see how I do in this race later on in the video. So as we round this corner, you're going to start to see a small attack start to form. You're going to see some riders start to surge and go on the front of the race, trying to increase the pace of the group and tire out some of the sprinters from doing better in the finishing sprint. So you can see here that there is a long string of riders now, rather than the blob that we had earlier. I'm doing around 67 watts per kilo. I'm just trying to hold on to this group, and I'm trying to also do as little energy as I can. So right here, I'm just going to ease off and let these riders pull me to the lead group of around 4 or 5 riders. My goal was to save this aero power up until the finish, so I wasn't going to try to use this to do any attacks or anything like that. I was going to leave until the finishing sprint and then try to be towards the back of the group so I can use the group to slingshot myself, because I have an aero power up too and my legs are feeling pretty good, so that would be the best strategy for sprinting for me. With around 1 mile left, the group came back together, and the pace still stayed around 3 to 4 watts per kilo, but it was easier than the attack that happened earlier. In a bit, you're going to see some more riders start to go up the front. I'm still trying to recover from that last attack because I really want to make sure that my legs are fresh for this sprint, and I was also trying to make sure that my hands weren't sweaty for this finishing sprint. So what I was doing was I was actually wiping my hands on my shorts to try to get my hands as dry as possible so I could have a better grip on the handlebars. Kind of odd, but it seemed to work. in a bit, okay, so here you're going to see another rider try to surge and try to split the group up again, trying to really separate the group and get a gap to try to pull off a win. That's going to be the rider in the orange jersey that starts this attack, and then more and more riders start to follow and carry on the attack. Right here, I realized that I'm drifting to the back of the group, so I surge back up, and you can see one rider using their featherweight. Not the best idea, but it's good for me, I guess, because that rider did not have a power up for the finishing sprint. The group is pretty spread out now, and I'm a bit worried because there's only half a mile left. So this is when I start to surge a bit, but then I see that there's another rider next to me who has really high Zwift power rank, Paul R. So I was going to wait for him to start his sprint, but ultimately I decided that he was going to sprint a bit too late, so I was going to really just go for it when I thought the time was right. I did a small surge around 7 watts per kilo just to try to bring myself closer to the group, and this sprint actually did not play out as I planned. Right here, I unleash my sprint. I do 518 as my max power. I'm flying past all the riders, but there are around 2 riders who have a pretty big gap on the rest of the riders. So right here, you can see that I'm actually pulling these 2 riders, which is pretty bad considering I'm a light rider and I don't do well when I am not sitting in the draft with someone. So right here is actually very close to the finish. I almost lost that 3rd place podium, but I ended up pulling it off. We're going to take a look at that clip again so I can explain to you what actually happened in that finish. So you can see that I'm about to deploy my aero power up, and right as we hit this corner, I turn on my aero power up, and you see it that the map is pretty strung out. I'm used to where I'm like in the main blob. I'm not the one trying to pass people, that's other riders. So what happened here was that there were 2 riders off the front who had a pretty big gap, and then there just weren't any riders to bridge the gap, and my speed slowed down dramatically once I was out of the draft and I wasn't passing anyone. That's how I slowed down to around 36 miles per hour when we hit the finish, and that ultimately costed me a near miss of 3rd, but I ended up getting 3rd place, which I was very happy about, and I got a Zwift power gain of 0.29. I had a fun time in this race, and it was really nice to have a different scenario for the finishing sprint. I was also pretty happy with my finishing sprint, so that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching.